works. So I hope this thing is doing whatever the fuck it's supposed to do. Um, Listen, I know that as human beings, it's easier for us to look at others' actions as them being bad because a bad action, bad person, right? However, I think that you would agree that as a human being, you have done things that you would consider a bad act that does not align with your character. Say you were under the influence, you listened to your friends and were believing something and didn't have the right information for a little while, did something stupid, learned your lesson and recorrected. What makes a person a bad person? What bad move makes you a bad person versus just a human? So if we can all make mistakes, learn from them, and be good people, and being a good person or a bad person is a choice in your characteristic. Why is it that as a human being, when something happens that you don't like in the world, automatically that person has to be the embodiment of evil? Okay? Our society has really, let's look at things, okay? How many times has the economic system forced you to rush and not pay attention so that you can get to work on time or whatever and not be fully paying attention to a proper human being? Or almost gotten in an accident or anything in those kind of situations? If you would have gotten the accident, are you a horrible, evil human being? Because you were running late and you were racing in this system? So which side do we take? Does it matter whether that was the person that you care about who was running late? Does it matter if it was the person that you care about that got hit? Does it matter if they got injured versus they got killed? Where does the spectrum actually lie? Because, I mean, honestly, the truth of this is we know that it lies in our perception, not in a holistic thing. Look at not reformation, reformed people from gangs, murder, all of these atrocities that have turned their lives around, and then were able to stop other people from walking down that path from the lesson that they learned from theirs. Are they an evil person because of the evil that they committed, or are they now good because they changed their characteristics? So if you're kind of understanding and paying attention to what I'm trying to say here is our damnation of considering people evil instead of trying to teach them and help them understand why what they're doing is wrong is part of the problem. So you have an economic system that is forcing people to make illogical and immoral choices for the sake of survival in an economic system. You have people that are doing evil acts because they were never put in a position or place in the world that they were ever told that they could be anything, that they amounted to anything. They were born in a family that did not understand them, constantly told them how they were wrong and bad and illogical thinking and all of these things. And that's the inner monologues that they got programmed with, that they're constantly trying to battle with. And we need to learn to deprogram that kind of thinking. And trust me, it's fucking hard as shit to endure a narcissist or neglect or abuse or fucking any of these things and think about the person as a human being and a wounded person that doesn't have the right comprehension. And I can understand there's people that have tried. Oh, well, I've told them. But this has always irritated me because I've literally watched people have these kind of conversations. Oh, I told them. Okay, well, I was there. I seen the conversation. I seen how you told them. You seen that they weren't getting it. They made it very clear that they weren't getting it. You did not try to re-articulate it. You did not try to have anybody else help you do that. You did your part. You checked that box, and that's all that you needed as a human being. And that's not how life is. You don't just get to check a box about, oh, I tried, and then you're the good person in the story. That's not really how it works. Like, just because you did one of the right steps and then turned around and then were the asshole of the situation, you're still an asshole of the situation. Yeah, sure, you were an asshole because you were hurt, but that's what everybody is living from. The people that do the crazy fucking things, they didn't just get born with a fucking fucked up brain that just, oh my God, I'm going to be crazy. No, they tried to walk in this world as best as they possibly could with an ill mindset, and then society constantly made it worse. I'm one of the people that are like aware enough to understand that I help some people, but I also am completely destroying other people in the way that I walk and do things, because I haven't completely aligned myself to doing things proper. I fight the battle of, I do want to walk the world in a soft, kind, lighthearted way, but every time I try to do that, there's people that are intentionally trying to sabotage that, to prove that their hurt and view of the world is right and not mine. So I will stop looking and preaching in the world the way that I do. And in retaliation, because these hits insecurities of me, of my own. I never felt hurt as a child, because I do think differently than other people. I've always thought a little bit differently. I don't like to have fun in the same ways. I'm not a go to the bar type of person. I'm a, think about things, talk about these kind of things type of person. So I never felt hurt. So when these kind of things hit, they hit a wound of my own. And then I'm an aggravation or pissed off because it's not going the way I want. And so then I attack at them and then make their inner monologues and situations and everything worse. So I'm literally battling against myself in these acts of being human, because I can't save other people before I completely save myself. And now, does that mean that I should go in my own internal world and fix myself completely before I interact with other people? Maybe, but I can't do that. I can't process my thoughts. If I stay inside my head, it's going to say the same loop over and over and over and over again. I can talk with somebody about a crazy thing, and as I'm saying the crazy thing to them, my brain is finally hearing the craziness of my fucking thoughts, and I'm able to reprocess that. So me, as a human being, I don't see how I'm going to go isolate in my room and fix myself completely when I need stimulation from the world, and I need to verbally process things to be able to do these things. Now, I've tried just sitting there. Sometimes that does help, but it doesn't always help, because a wall can't give you the other new programming. The wall can't go, oh my God, I've been there. This is what helped me, where other human beings can do that. I know that I should be looking at the comments, but when I started this, there was nobody actually paying any attention. And I thought this was just going to end up being a video that I didn't have to upload. So give me 1 second. Okay, I agree. Take your time. You're talking a mile a minute. Oh, yes, I know. That's one of my unfortunate problems. I'll slow down now that I've thought about it, but my thoughts will be a little bit more scattered, because then they will be more of my in control of it than the autopilot where these thoughts come from. And when these thoughts are from autopilot, yes, it comes out a lot faster. But there is also... She's just ranting, ain't she? Yes, kind of. Again, when I started this videos, there wasn't anybody watching. I'm sure at this point, again, that there is nobody watching, because I didn't pay any attention to the comments, and that's kind of how the world works. But it is what it is. Again, this saves me from having to do the upload process. So even if I'm talking to myself, it's okay for me, because then it just avoids another step process. And it was my first time doing one of these. So yes, I'm a little extra nervous about doing something new, because I am uncomfortable with new things. It doesn't stop me from doing things. It just makes me awkward when I do them. I don't mind being an awkward human being. I'm human, and so are you, and so is everybody else. And judgment doesn't make anybody better than anybody else. It just shows that you're an insecure person just like me. And it shows me where I can attack. Again, I'm healing, not healed. So I have rejection sensitivity. So as soon as I see something that I can imply as negative, I'm going to imply a negative, even if somebody else doesn't mean that it is negative. And I see this trap with a lot of people, where when you're sitting as a third party, it's really easy to actually start to understand the human brain, because you're able to process two different things. You're able to watch the conversation and see how conversations are not as easy flowing. So you'll have one person saying something and you'll understand what they're saying, and then another person respond and you'll see that they're not in the same realm. And hi, I paid attention this time. they're not in the same realm. And you'll see the conversation still go back and forth. It's not like a human being. Sometimes the person's not even aware. It's really cool when people are having conversations. It depends on where the person's inner thoughts are to how they are with the conversation. If you're not very observant, you're not always going to pay attention to whether the other person is actually having a conversation with you or not. Because if you're both just talking to talk or to feel like heard, then that's when Q&A. Do you drink a lot of ice water, or do you drink a lot of ice? I don't drink water. I drink soda. I'm a Pepsi drinker. Sorry, I'm trying to track all of these things. I've never done this one before, so I'm learning this process. And if you feel to be on this journey with me, awesome. If not, it is going to go back and forth. There is not going to be some linear thoughts in here. Part of me being this type of human is going to train your brains to stop looking at everything linearly, because the world is not linear. So having somebody like me that has to jump up back and forth on all of the different thoughts, and we'll jump back to some of them, will help you guys, your brains process, because sometimes this stuff is not a conscious thing. That's the most beautiful thing about the world, is when somebody's talking to you, you don't have to understand what they're talking about at that moment for you to have put a seed in your brain that will be relevant for you later. This happens a lot to people where they won't understand something at the time, and then when they do, the time and place comes that they need that information, they remember that conversation. So you can be completely annoyed with a person and not like anything that they have to say, and still end up down the road admiring and respecting that person, because the information that they gave you that you didn't like at first ended up being something that was really relevant and important to your life and helped you out in a really hard time. Just like your enemy can end up being more of a friend and somebody you respect than your best friend, because it depends on what the relationship's actually aligned on. And if your enemy does some kind of thing that shows that they have admirable qualities, especially if it's a helping hand within your life, you're going to end up having more respect for them, especially because you didn't like them at first. So your brain is like, why would you do something nice for me? I didn't like you. But here's the cool thing about that is just because you don't like somebody doesn't mean that they don't like you. That's another thing. If you're a person who hangs out with a lot of people but don't actually have a lot of friends, you intermingle in a lot of different worlds. And so you get to have different sides of different conversations. Seemed like when somebody's talking shit about somebody, and then like a few months later, you're ended up in the world of the person they were talking shit about, and you get to hear their side. So you kind of get to see how two sides of a story come together. And then you're usually, when you have both sides of the story, it's a lot easier to actually kind of figure out what was going on there, because we have a perception filter on something. So if you made me feel bad about something, when I describe what you did, it's going to be said from they did this to do this to hurt, you know what I mean? And so it's said from a whole different way, where when you have it from the other person's side, they're like, oh, well, I was curious and I said this and I was thinking this, and you could see like a more innocent side. So it's innocence. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I know they don't like me, so I said it's just interesting. It's like, I'm not into reality shows, but one of the things that, again, I'm bouncing all over the place. When you watch reality shows, if you'll notice that a person will be one way with the contestants or whatever, but then they'll literally go like in that behind the scenes thing, and they'll talk shit to the camera, and they'll tell you like what their inner thoughts are and how they're playing things and doing things. That same thing happens in the real world when your friends and stuff are conversating with you. And especially if you're somebody that will stay silent for conversations that aren't had with you, that are being had with another person, you can also catch a lot of things, how people's minds are different. So if I'm talking to you and you're somebody that likes softball, you're going to trigger thoughts in my head that more align to my softball years and talking about that, because that's how we're going to align. Where if another person enters the conversation and they're not somebody that's softball related, but all three of us are chicks, then our conversation is going to switch to a chick type of thing, right? So that's because your neurons actually change to match, not to match the people you're with, but you think very contradictory. You just don't realize it. So when you're with certain people, those neurons pick up. So you can actually, for sports people, if you have friends that have different favorite teams and you like different teams, but you also align with their liking on certain things, you can actually, like if you watch videos, if there was a tracking of your conversations, the things that you say with the one friend versus what you say with the other will actually align slightly different, not because you're trying to please them or any of these things, but because the neurons in your brain only make you think of certain things. I'm gonna end this. I'm getting eaten up by mosquitoes, and this was my first just trial run at this. This is kind of how I do things, trial and error, figure things out as I go. You can't be perfect at something that you don't know, and you're never going to grow if you don't do something that you've never done before. So you just kind of have to sometimes fumble through something, look like a fucking idiot. Who fucking cares? People can look at you like an idiot in the beginning of something and then end up admiring you at the end. Think of people like Elon Musk and shit like that. Do you know how many people are like, oh my God, Elon Musk? Now that we're talking shit 10 years ago, it's cute because this is, you think so presently that we forget about how our mind flows so adaptively. We're not just this singular, steady, rigid being that doesn't change in any way, shape, or form. There are some of us out have rigid thinking, and so when I say these things, you may assume that that's what they like. No, I don't agree, but you will look at your life and see that you have not been the same since you were a toddler. You did in fact change throughout growing. You just are more fixated for longer periods of time than most other people. All right, how the fuck do I end these things?